Hi, everyone. It's me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. And joining me today is Julie Enszer. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
It is a pleasure having you here with us today. So great. Thanks for being here. I want to kick this off with just having you introduce yourself to our audience and let them know a little bit about you and your background and experience.
Sure thing. So as you said, my name is Julie Enszer. I do lots of different things. I'm the editor and publisher of Sinister Wisdom, which is the longest running multicultural lesbian feminist art and literary magazine. I have our most recent copy right here to hold up for your readers.
Fabulous.
A quarterly journal for lesbian feminist readers and lots of other subscribers who are interested in the work that we're doing. That's our poster. This particular issue is the sixth in a series of Southern lesbian feminist activist herstories that a group of folks have collected and written into stories to really document the activism of the lesbian feminist South. I am also a researcher and a historian of lesbian feminist publishing. And recently, I just finished this book, Outright, which is a collection of speeches from the LGBTQ Writers Conference that happened in the United States between 1990 and 1999. And of course, its spirit continues in some ways at the DC LGBT Center, which you're familiar with, I'm sure, where every August they do a writers' festival the first weekend of August. So those are some of the projects that are uppermost on my mind right now.
Amazing, amazing. I love that. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about the project, because we just shared that on the screen. So I'd love to hear more about the Southern Lesbian Feminist Activist Herstory Project. Love the herstory and what that is all about, and capturing that, and what that looks like, that whole project.
Yeah. Well, there was a really vibrant and active lesbian feminist movement, between 1969 and some people say today, and I absolutely think it continues today, but there were a lot of different projects that sort of happened between 1969 and the 1990s. And a lot of these activists have also, as we all do, get a little bit older every single year. And as they were looking at how different histories of feminism and lesbianism were being written, they really felt like some of the Southern stories were being left out. And there was a long-standing gathering of women writers in the South called Woman Rights. And they would get together usually twice a year in a kind of camping, rustic environment and all swap writing. And at one of these gatherings in the kind of mid of the first decade of the 2000s, people said we should start collecting these stories. And when I say people, one of the biggest advocates of it is a wonderful dyke named Meryl Mushroom. And Meryl said, let's gather all of these Southern stories. Meryl was born and raised in Miami and has been around Florida and now lives on a farm in Tennessee. And she said, let's gather all of these stories and see what we can do with them. And so they started that. I think this was around 2006, 2007, and did a lot, like most organizing projects, had some stops and starts. And then they approached me shortly after I became the editor of Sinister Wisdom. So around 2011, Rose Norman, who's really become like the executive editor of this series, approached me and said, would Sinister Wisdom be interested in an issue of these stories? And knowing the sort of landscape of history, I said, absolutely, because there are Southern erasures. And so we started with one issue. And at that point, we were just going to do one issue. But when they sent me the first issue, I said, wow, this is really too much for one issue. They had this really fascinating section about the lesbian land communities, women who lived
Mm.
communally on the land, much like the radical fairies and the different fairy lands that exist
Yes,
in the
yes.
United States as well. And I said, let's do a separate issue on land dikes. So that became our second issue, but we did the first one that was just like the oral histories. And then it really kind of spun out from there. So now that we have 6 of them, we have them actually gathered in a box set too, if people want to order
Okay.
them. Oh,
Mhm.
yes. Oh, yes. In some ways, I was raised by gay men, so I understand the aesthetics of making beautiful objects. So now we have 6 of them, and all of this work is being archived at Duke University as a part of their feminist archive there.
Love that.
And it's been a really great journey of seeing these stories documented and get out there in the world and having people read them. The Land Dykes issue
Certainly.
is one that people continually request and are interested in, even if they're not all running off to live on the land and in rural
Hmm.
communities. It's this imaginary of what a
Yes.
different way of living can look like.
Almost like a fantasy. And I love that you're able to put this out into the world and to preserve these stories and to share these stories. I was having a conversation with author and storyteller Elizabeth McCain maybe last month. And, her new book is about the Southern lesbian belle, and her new one-woman show is telling stories about, being in the South and being a lesbian and all of that, and really telling those stories. So it's so interesting to me to have this conversation with you and come back to that and really talk about preserving those good lesbian Southern stories. Yes,
Yeah.
that's fabulous,
Yeah.
fabulous. And for anyone who is watching and would certainly want to know more about they want to go ahead and know more about Sinister Wisdom. Tell me about Sinister Wisdom, how it started, and what the thought process was like in getting Sinister Wisdom together.
Sure. And for folks who want to know more, our website is sinisterwisdom.org. And Sinister Wisdom started back in 1976. And so there have been a whole array of lesbians who've run the journal before I did. So in 1976, it was the middle of a great explosion of lots of publishing of magazines and newspapers among lesbians and feminists. But it was also, there was a favorite magazine that people had that had fallen apart called Amazon Quarterly. And our founders, Catherine Nicholson and Harriet Des Moines, were mourning the loss of this one journal.
Yeah.
And they said, I bet we could do something ourselves. And they committed to put the time and money into publishing the first issue, put it out in the world, and told people that if they sent in subscriptions, they would publish 3 more issues. And women responded, and they published and got going. And you see here at the very top is, I think that's Sinister Wisdom 39 in the upper left. And down at the bottom is one of our issues in the mid-90s. The issue we just published is 124. We number them all sequentially. We've gone between publishing 3 issues a year and 4 issues a year. The size of the issues varies as well. And the editorship of Sinister Wisdom has passed along from woman to woman since it started. Harriet and Catherine did the journal for 5 years, and then they passed it on to Adrienne Rich and her lover, Michelle Cliff. You see Adrienne there. We did a tribute when Adrienne died. In the bottom row there, you see her holding her hands like this.
Yes.
And so we did a tribute issue for her. We also did some tribute work for Michelle Cliff when she passed away. They did the journal for 3 or 4 years and then passed it on to the next woman. And that's really how the journal has continued. Fran Day was the editor before I was, and she passed it on to me. And were, interested, Harriet and Catherine were interested in really the spark of lesbian imagination. And that's what I try to hold on to this day, to say, what do lesbians need and want to read? What inspires our imagination, and what helps us knit community together in meaningful ways? So that's the work we're
Awesome.
on about.
I love it. I love it. And we are going to have the link in the description so everyone can go ahead and check it out. Julie, let me know, what can people expect when they go to the Sinister Wisdom website? What can they expect on it? What can they do there?
Well, I will say we're a print journal. And one of the things
Mhm.
I say to all of the interns and everything is, I am much better at language than I am at visuals. So I try to
Mhm.
engage other volunteers and people to help me with that. But you'll
Mhm.
see on this cover, we do an annual calendar. That's our calendar
Mhm.
from 2020. We're getting ready to release the call for artwork for that's our 2022 calendar. We're getting ready to release the call for artwork for 2023. On the website, you can see all of the issues that we have archived up through issue, I believe, 89. We
Mhm.
give those all away freely as PDFs, because we want lesbians to know our history and to be able to read back through the women who have gone before in working on the journal. People can also
Certainly.
order back issues of issues that we still have in stock. People can become subscribers. We're entirely supported by subscribers, and primarily volunteer run as an organization. So your subscription really pays for the paper, the printing, the binding of the journal, the mailing it out. Those are our biggest expenses. And then we also like to do fun things. We did a bookmark with all of the calendar covers on it.
Ah.
Yes, we made a couple years back with a student volunteer. We made a blank book that has inspiring quotes by women, that's spiral bound, that people can use as a journal.
Mm.
One of the things about Sinister Wisdom I try to tell people is that we say yes to lesbian projects. So if people have an idea of something that they want to do and it fits in our rubric of literature, the arts, of building multicultural lesbian communities, I like to say yes if this is a space that really can nurture that project and help it move forward.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for sharing. And how can people follow you, follow Sinister Wisdom, keep up with what's going on, and keep abreast of updates?
Yes, those are all of you have on the screen. We are on Twitter, Sinister_Wisdom. We're on Facebook at Sinister Wisdom, and also on Instagram, Sinister_Wisdom. And we post updates there. And I always have a team of volunteers working on different things. And on those websites, you'll also find lots of links to my projects and different things that I personally am working on as well. Although lots of it connects. Sinister Wisdom is like my intellectual home Borg. So I'm
Mm.
always there, kind of reaching out and thinking about new and different things in relationship to it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Julie, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for being a archivist of history, a storyteller, and just doing all the fabulous, great work for the community. Thank you so much. It's been such an honor having you here.
Thank you. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you so much. Those who are watching, please follow Team Racine Productions on all forms of social media at Team Racine. And while you're here, click around the channel and see something you like. Watch, click, subscribe, do all of that to our YouTube channel. But most of all, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.